now going to talk about immersion pulmonary edema. This is a problem that we've known about in the medical literature for more than 20 years, but it actually hasn't penetrated through the diving community that well. And so we have a lot of cases that are probably missed. With immersion pulmonary edema, you have divers who will experience perhaps some difficulty, a sense of difficulty breathing, perhaps even a sound of gurgling as they breathe, and occasionally some coughing. This will often occur at depth, and it's not related to decompression or decompression stress. It's a breathing difficulty. When divers get it, we want them to surface as quickly as possible, because if it's a mild case, it can resolve itself very quickly. A serious case, though, can become a life threat. If someone develops difficulty breathing, a little bit of coughing, that sense of gurgling, they come to the surface, the most effective treatment is to take off their gear, get them out of the water, put them at rest, and put them on oxygen. That alone can be enough to resolve most cases. If they're taken to hospital, which they should be to be evaluated, they may also be put on some medication to reduce the fluid volume in their bodies and to ease their breathing. What contributes to immersion pulmonary edema is quite interesting. There are several factors that contribute to it, and this is actually what leads to our often missing the cases. It's not one factor that will contribute, it's many. And they fall under two major categories. The first thing we can get is an increase in central blood volume. When you immerse your body in water, you tend to see a shift of fluid to the chest. That's one thing that increases central blood volume. You also have some people who really think that drinking a lot is good for diving health. Drinking healthy amounts is good for general health and good for diving health, pardon me. But drinking too much can actually increase your fluid volume. Hyperhydration can actually increase the risk. Cold stress can also increase central blood volume because you have a vasoconstriction from the shell to the core. This can also be augmented by wearing a tight wetsuit, which can increase a central blood volume shift. The second major category of risk is respiratory loading. If you increase the negative pressure breathing, the work of inspiration, you can increase your hazard. You get that by immersing your body in water. A body immersed in water, you have to work harder to expand your chest cage. When you put a tight suit on, it can be harder work to expand your chest cage. When you're breathing through any kind of system, a snorkel, open circuit, or closed circuit, it can increase your work of breathing. And that can also be further influenced by your body position. You typically have a neutral body position that is very easy to breathe in, and that's what you'd like to maintain. If you shift off that optimal, it can become harder to exhale or harder to inhale. Two other factors can contribute. One is increased gas density. The deeper you go, the more dense the gas, the harder it is to breathe. And finally, exercise increases your respiratory burden. When you put these factors together, the increased central blood volume and the respiratory burden, you get an increase in pulmonary artery pressure. What that can cause is it can promote stress failure in the capillaries that can increase the permeability to water, and some of that fluid ends up in the lung. Once the fluid is in the lung, it impairs the ability to exchange gases because it increases the distance that you have to exchange those gases. And that leads to those symptoms: the coughing, the sense of difficulty breathing, the gurgling. And to differentiate this from cardiac-related conditions, typically there's no chest pain associated with this problem. Once we have treated a diver on the surface with rest, oxygen, and whatever stabilizing they need, it's always a good idea to have them checked out clinically. When they're checked out clinically, it can be determined whether there's a major contributing factor that could be resolved, or if this is a risk to the person that may end up requiring them to look for an alternative to diving. Not everyone has to give up diving. It's controversial if you have one case. But if you have repeated cases of immersion pulmonary edema, it's generally thought to be a good idea to stop your diving. We hope you don't have to, but it's more important that you understand the risks and stay safe. Thank you.